This is the Red Podcast.
Testing. 1, 2, 9 or 9. 5, 9, 2, 2. Like football meets David's outline.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right.
3,
2,
1.
This is episode number 152. Is it too late for you to start your business or change the direction that you're going? Are you too old? That's what we're going to talk about on this episode.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
Laurel Staples is back. You had a week off, Red Podcast. You've got some exciting stuff over at 10by10coach.com coming up. But you're back now.
I am back. I got sick. Can't be on the mic when you're sick. It would be like you and your co-host Kermit the Frog. Not be good.
But it didn't keep you from over the weekend rescuing a second dog. We talked about this about a month ago. We were driving around, minding our own business. Dog ran out in front of us, and we rescued it.
We did.
You rescued it.
Well, we both did.
I scared it.
Yeah, you scared it. You're very tall for a small dog. Friday, we were going to dinner, and we were driving down a 4-lane road, or it's becoming a 4-lane road, and we see this little silky terrier just running up the side of the road, and then it crosses over traffic, and it crosses back, and you had to close your eyes at one point.
Oh, yeah, because this is like an interstate overpass where the dog had come up on an interstate exit. I thought this dog was going to die because it was so tiny. People couldn't see it, but as soon as we saw it, you pulled over. You were driving, like, get out, get it.
Yeah, I pulled over. You got out, and then another guy was coming off the ramp because he had parked his car way far away and left his wife and kid, and he was following it up the ramp, and it was just running too fast. And then someone else came up the other way, and they were following it. So they turned. We took the guy back to his car so he could catch up with his wife and kid because now he was like a half mile away. And then we went to follow it. Finally, we cornered it in somebody's backyard, and we got it.
Yeah. Luckily, one of the women had a leash.
Yes, we had a leash, but I had to grab that thing and wrestle it to the ground.
By its long hair. You heard it yelp, wrestled it to the ground, tied a leash around it.
I know.
Fortunately, it didn't do well.
I'm going to a rodeo next.
But strangely enough, then the next day, we saw the guy out and about. The guy whose yard we were using.
Yeah, we saw the guy whose yard we used to capture the dog.
Like, hey, we know you. We just showed up at your yard yesterday and cornered a dog in the back corner.
Yep. And then I was at the park yesterday for the Craft Festival here in Nashville, and there was a husky on the loose that people were chasing, and I tried to get it, but there is no way I can grab a husky. Like, we're not going to wrestle something like that to the ground.
The limits of the dog whisperer are 15 pounds or less.
15 pounds or less. I will come capture your dog, but over that, sorry. What was funny is I got an email after our first dog story from, I believe it was Lana. She had heard our story and saw a dog that had escaped and was running out on the road, and she rescued this dog and returned it to its tearful owner. We're spreading the word about dogs, not only business, but saving dogs.
Inspiring people to rescue dogs worldwide.
That's what we do here at Red.
This is the Red Podcast. Red stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. This is the podcast for authors, speakers, and coaches. We'll help you expand your influence, reach more people with your message, and make money doing what you love. We show you how to build a successful personality-based business and live life on your terms. We kind of skipped over it, but you've got some cool stuff coming up at 10by10coach.com. So if you're interested in that, if you've got a coaching business and you want to grow it, Laurel Staples is the woman to talk to, 10by10coach.com. And when we say buy, that's X.
10x10coach.com. It's linked from Red, so you can find it if you go to the About page.
On this episode, we're talking about getting started. Is it too late for you to get started? This is something that everybody faces. Funny story about this. When I was 15 years old, growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, everybody here is born with a guitar, and I had attempted to play guitar when I was in about second grade, 15 years old. I'm a freshman in high school. And I really wanted to play guitar, but I thought to myself, it's too late for me. I'm 15. This whole music thing is, I'm way too far behind.
Past your prime there.
Yeah.
You haven't been playing violin since you were 2.
Yeah. And that happens.
Oh, it does.
So we're going to dive deeper into the subject. Is it too late for you to start whatever you want to start, or to change what you're doing and go into a different direction? You and I, as far as entrepreneurship, we started young.
We started in our 20s. I mean, we were selling stuff from the time we were little, but we really started our businesses in our 20s. You started in college.
Yeah, I started in college, still in my dorm room, and kind of a funny story, the Postal Service actually shut me down because I was running a business out of my dorm room. Getting so much mail to the dorm, they said, hey, you can't run a business here on campus.
I wonder why not.
I don't know.
You got to pay for that school somehow.
They just don't want you doing it on the campus, and it was a big mess, but didn't stop me. But that's kind of the advantage of starting young, I think. You have no knowledge about what's possible or what's not possible. I was actually running these tiny classified ads down the pre-style, and they would send people to my campus address. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think about having to have a business address or permits. I said, yeah, just send it to David at blank. I had no fear. I just assumed that I could do it.
You said you had no knowledge, but I think no matter what age you start a business, you really have no knowledge if you haven't done that business before, or you haven't started a business, launched it, done everything involved with it. But I think kind of hit on it there with no fear. It's like you didn't know what to be afraid of, all those fears of what if, and what if I can't, and I'm not good enough, and all of those things just weren't as prominent in our minds at such a young age. It seems like there were just more possibilities, like this is possible.
Like a lot of people don't think about death and health consequences. We're going to smoke, drink, eat fast food. All that's way in the future. It's not in our current reality. And the same with failure for a business. And you talked about us starting very young, selling things. I had my can business. We talked about the Tubi cans that I used to sell in junior high. I had my gun show business where I would go to gun shows, buy knives, and then sell those at school. Try that today. Can't get away with it. But I'd had some success, but not like a runaway success, like a nice teenage lawn mowing kind of success. And this is where I wanted to step it up as best I could. Looking back on it, it's quite funny. But a few $100 a month to a college kid, that's not a bad deal.
I think what worked best for me was just being ignorant. I think ignorance really helps you when you're trying to launch a business, especially when you're young and you don't have fear. It's just, you don't know what's involved, so you just jump in. It's like if you see a pond, you don't know how cold the water is, you just jump in and figure it out.
One of the things that I really took for granted at the time was how much energy that I had to put towards something. And of course, looking back on it, I wasn't working very hard at all. This was maybe a couple hours a day, if that. Not the amount of energy that I'm having to put into it now, but still, as a younger person, you don't get tired as quickly.
Now you're an old fart.
Yeah, I feel like it.
Not really.
I
You're
feel
in your
like
prime now.
Well,
you should have more energy.
I am smarter, and we're going to get to the advantages of starting a business later. And one of them is knowledge and knowing where to expend your energy. One of the big advantages, also younger, no family, no mortgage. You're just renting a place, or when I was in the dorm, had my parents paying for the dorm. Kind of easy, right? Only thing I had to worry about was just pocket change.
Well, it's obligations. No matter what those obligations are for you, you do have to pay your bills. And there's a lot more involved with family dynamics and paying for kids and mortgages and schools and all that kind of stuff. Is when we started young, we didn't have to think about any of that. And we took it for granted. That's for sure.
Here's another thing. How about being socially acceptable? Is it more acceptable for somebody young to follow his dream as opposed to somebody old? And let me give you an example. Coming from the music industry, nobody thinks anything, at least in Nashville, if somebody in their 20s wants to be a singer, songwriter, join a band, hit the road. It's like, oh, them kids, of course they want to do that. Let them go sow their wild oats. It's just fine, right? But if somebody were 40, 50, 60, people start looking at those folks like they're a little bit crazy. And the same with starting a business, I think.
I don't know if it is more socially acceptable, because when I quit my job, I was 25, I think, And nobody else was doing that. And nobody understood what I was doing. So I didn't feel like my choice to run my own business and leave my high-paying corporate job was very socially acceptable, even though I was only 25. So I think at any age, you're going to run into people that are like, what? What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, they're definitely the naysayers. But to me, and maybe this is because the people that are 40s or 50s, a lot of them have been trying this for 20, 30 years. It's like that guy who does the same thing expecting different results. And there's that fine line between persistent and completely insane. One of the issues with getting older that I think goes against what I just said about somebody who's been at it for so long, when you're just starting up again, it's that you know too much. You know how hard it is. Maybe those people don't know how hard it is because they never quit, even though they're still in the game and they should know because they're right in there.
Goes back to ignorance.
I guess so, but think about it right now. If you were to start something from scratch, you're 30.
Which I have. I have done that.
Yeah, sure we have. We have, because this is, well, Red, for example, 1 year old. This was brand new for us. I've been in broadcasting. You'd had a podcast before, but we're still starting from scratch. And during the last 12 months, we've thought, well, should we rebrand Red? Should we start from scratch? And part of the reason we don't is that we know too much. We know how much work it took to get this thing started.
We do. And when we started, we knew how much work it was going to take.
Well, but do you ever really know until you get in the game, actually doing it, in the trenches?
I think I've done it enough to the point where I know how much work is involved in doing something new. And for me, not having that ignorance of just jumping in and figuring it out, but knowing everything that it's involved to launch something new, it makes me hold back from doing anything different, because you know how much energy and effort and time and blood, sweat, and tears is going to go into something, and it's easy to be like, I might not want to do that.
Yeah, but having been in the podcast space before, you knew what it took to set up interviews. You knew what it took to edit a show, to put it up, go through all the production, the pre-production, and the post-production.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be a benefit of having that experience and possibly being older. I guess we're really talking about experience, aren't we? Are we talking about age?
It's more about experience than age. Because I don't think it has much to do with age. It has to do with how long you've been in the game.
I do think for speakers, for consultants, for coaches, you work with a lot of people over at 10 by 10. There is an advantage to starting older. John Acuff came on here a couple weeks ago or so, and we were talking about taking advice from the 21-year-old life coach. I think that somebody who's 50, not so old that he's out of touch, but not so young that he hasn't lived. So I'm saying 50. That guy's going to have a better opportunity in the coaching business than somebody who's in his 20s.
See, I disagree with that, because I think there are a lot of successful people we're talking about coaching, so it could be different for other businesses and other types of personality businesses. But I think coaching, you can be very successful in your 20s because you're not really taking advice. You're not, like, coaches aren't consultants. Like, oh, do it this way. You need to live your life this way. I mean, they're coaches. They're asking the right questions. They're diving in deep, and they're seeing where you have the holes in your life. So I think you can be successful. I think it's not really an age thing. It's more of, are you willing to get in there and do it and do the work and figure out how to do it? And I think that pertains to any business, not just coaching.
I was part of a movie project, and the movie just a couple weeks ago was at the Nashville Film Festival. We went to go see it together. It's called Top Spin. It was a story of 3 young table tennis champions and what they had to do to be competitive in the world of table tennis.
They were trying to get to the Olympics.
Trying to get to the Olympics, the road to that, how much work that it took. And to get to the Olympics, you have to qualify. And the way it works, and I don't quite understand this, and tell me if you got this differently, there's a North American region. So it's the United States and Canada. 2 young girls, how old were these girls when they were playing? Like maybe 15, 16 years old?
15, yeah.
15, 16. They went up against a woman, I believe she was 41 years old, because I remember thinking, hey, she's about my age, and she's about to be in the Olympics. Her name is Chris Zhu. She's from Canada. So they were playing against her to be on the North American team. They called her a chopper because she made these young people play her game. She would take the spin on the ball and change it up to where they couldn't tell what was going on. They would get too aggressive and they would make a mistake. She would just wait for them to make a mistake. And I think that epitomizes being older in the trenches. You can play smart, not necessarily that same athletic game these younger people are doing, but still beat them. And she did beat them. And then they beat her. But at the same time, she's like 3 times the age, though, right?
True, but I don't know if that comes with age. I think she had a different style, and her style was the chopper style where she would change the spin on every shot, but I don't know if that's an age thing. Again, I think it's an experience thing.
What about credibility? Is age helping credibility? Is that one reason for somebody to jump in without fear when they're older?
It can help your credibility, but at the same time, being young can help your credibility. Say
if it's like social media, Twitter, Instagram.
Exactly. Say you're in the technology field, or you're designing apps or coding or doing social media or something that we think of younger people are better at those things. So am I going to go out and hire somebody who's older and didn't grow up with a laptop and a tablet in their lap and an iPhone attached to their forehead?
It happens. It happens these days.
I don't know if that happens to their ear. No, I'm not going to do that. I am going to hire someone who's younger, who understands it and came out of the womb with their iPod. Again, I think it's experience.
Being in the coaching business, 10by10coach.com is the website for anybody who wants more information on how Laurel can help you to grow a coaching business. You've seen a lot of older coaches. Do you have stories of somebody who jumped into the coaching business later in life than had success?
Well, I started my coaching career as a health coach, and I went to the Institute for Integrated Nutrition, which I loved. And I remember going to one of their conferences down in Miami Beach, Florida. One of the students there was in her 70s. And I don't know if she was trying to just learn this stuff for the sake of healing her own body, or she was learning it to start a business, but it just got me thinking it's never too late to dive in there and learn something new and start helping people. Maybe she could help her family. Maybe she could help her friends. Maybe she could help people that are aging in the retirement home that she's in. I don't know, but it just got me thinking there really is no age limit. And I just think you have to start when you're ready to start. Or even before you're ready to start. You have to start at some point, because I think what we keep coming back to, David, is it's experience. It's not age. And a lot of people worry that, oh, well, they think about the age they're going to be when they get there. Oh, well, I'll be 45 when I get established in this business. I'll be 55. I'll be 70, whatever, when I get established in my new career in this new business. Don't think about that. You're going to be that age anyway. It doesn't really matter, but you do have to start now to gain the experience so that you can be successful when you're at that age, as opposed to reaching that age and having done nothing.
Also, your clients, your audience can better connect with you in a lot of ways if you are the same age that they are. Take it back to musicians for a minute. I knew a guy always wanted to be a musician, had a teaching career in academics for a long time and just kind of fiddled with it. But once he retired and he had the freedom financially and he just didn't care anymore what people thought about him, he started doing these gigs for older audiences. And what he found was that these people still loved music. They were still willing to go out. They wanted somebody that they could connect to. It wasn't that they had stopped going out because they didn't like to go out. They'd stopped going out because there was nothing for them to relate to. So he found a new audience, and I think that's certainly possible with something such as health coaching. If you can connect to somebody, sometimes the audience will emerge and be there when you didn't even know that they would be there.
Is he playing the early bird gigs?
Branson, Missouri, 7 a.m., right after the breakfast.
Nice.
No, Branson, Missouri, though, perfect example of people starting late. If you don't know about Branson, it is basically like Vegas without gambling, without booze. There may be some hookers there, I'm not sure, but I've heard it described as Vegas without any of the good stuff.
So is it just a desert?
It's plop a trailer down right in the middle of nowhere, just like Las Vegas. And because they have an older audience, the kind of audience that likes to wake up at the crack of dawn, 5, 6 a.m., they start doing gigs at 7 a.m. Is that not unbelievable?
Early bird special.
Early bird special. And, of course, 1 p.m. after lunch, they take a couple hours off because everybody needs a nap.
Sounds good to me.
But there's a place for it. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Old people love to do the same thing they did in Vegas, but without the parts of Vegas that the younger people go for. You have questions, you've got comments, think it's too late for you, reach out to us. If you're a coach, Laurel can help you there at 10by10coach.com. Thanks for listening to Red Podcast. If you like what we're doing, you think it would help one of your entrepreneurial friends, you can also contact us directly and give us episode suggestions. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.